to do this as best I can. My nephew's here, but I don't know if he's going to be getting up in a little bit or not. But right there you can pretty much see that it states two positive, I guess you can say, yeah, it's going to say two positive fan reviews of this Mecha Sally arc, or Mecha Sally World Tour 2 Death Egg Mark II arc, whatever you want to call it. The first one actually was done yesterday. And this is what they had to say about it. We can get it back in reading mode. This is their thoughts on it, and they pretty much have a long list of it. I mean, considering this has been a year and a half's worth. But anyway, this is what they said, and I quote, "Well, a normal person would probably answer this from the memory alone, but screw that. If there's one thing that I want to be known for, it's certainly not normality. So what did I do in order to differentiate myself from the crowd? Why, I reread over every single issue in the Mecha Sally arc that I own, and then some. Only 2 issues I don't have, issue 241 and the second part of the Eggman arc in Sonic Universe. Now you say here that the Sally arc consists of the main comics from 230 to 247. But I consider the Babylon Rising arc, Eggman arc, and the Secret Freedom Fighters arc, and in issue 50 of the Universe to be all part of it, considering how big of a role that they played around the main comic. So that's about 30 issues? Holy mother of Matoon's et Icarus Pooh, whatever that meant. That's a lot. But here we go. We start off the arc with Sonic going back and saving Sally, only to have her roboticized in a heroic sacrifice. Nice. You mad, Sally fanbase? Love that. Continuing on from there, Nagas becomes king, Bunny gets de-roboticized, Antron gets a robot explosion to his face, and Silver gets dragged across the city to have his face slammed into the end of a hospital bed, which is also one of my favorite moments in the entire comic. Only for Sonic to find out that Bunny ran away. Plus, Nicole gets banished. All of this happens while the characters are still dealing with the loss of their friend Sally, who has just been used for the first time against the Freedom Fighters. I applaud this. Why? It actually made me feel bad for the characters, which is always a good thing in my book. It shows that the writers are making me care about these guys. If I don't care, what's the point of reading it? And then we have the Babylon Rising arc, where we not only see more of the Babylon Rogues, underrated characters in my book, but more of the fairly interesting Battle Cuckoo Army. Still a stupid name, but whatever. In this, a giant hole was created in New Mobotropolis, which is referenced once throughout the Mecha Sally arc. Continuity! Boom. And then we go to the Eggman arc, where we see him chase Snively around the world, face him in a giant robots fighting are always cool. And have Snively subjected to one of the, I don't even know what to call it. Just the way he's in that capsule, lying there all beat up and mangled, looking so sad with the love of his life, thinking he's by her side. I feel so bad for the little runt. Once again, the writer's actually making me care, or makes you. Once again, the writer's actually making me feel bad for a character, showing that I care about them. Then back with the main comic, Sonic hurts the Freedom Fighters, which causes some fans to get their pants to be twisted up in knots, ignoring the fact that the Freedom Fighters were pretty much down for the count. Didn't see any complaints for Fleetway though. Gee, I wonder why. Not to mention that we got back. Not to mention they got up. Can't talk. Okay. Not to mention that he got back up relatively quickly. Then we got Team Freedom and Team Fighters. Team Freedom makes me question myself. It has Cream the Rabbit and Big the Cat in them. Two characters I hate with an ever-loving passion. While Cream isn't cured by this, Big is now. Someone I don't hate. While Cream isn't cured of this, Big is now someone I don't hate. He's a little entertaining, but not too much. I don't hate him. Let's just leave it at that. Then we go on a couple of other adventures. The first in the Wolfpack Nation. Not much I can really say on the first part, but then in the second part, while it still feels fillery, there's a single crowning moment of awesome right right there, that I want to mention. In fact, my words cannot really do the best job of explaining it, so instead I will quote TV tropes. Quote, Tails gets an awesome moment in 238. He's secretly placing a tracking device on the Death Egg when he's attacked by Metal Sally, who lampshades that Tails' emotional attachments will prevent him from fighting back. Wrong. Tails immediately repels her with a spinning tail attack, uses his momentum to slam her into the ground, and successfully hold her off. He points out to her that he's sorry, but he will protect himself. Had Tails not had other concerns and had to break away, it's hinted that he could have actually won. If you take into account that Sally has essentially raised Tails along with the other Freedom Fighters, it's made all the more poignant, because he's fighting off somebody like a mother to him. It's another indicator as to how far he's grown as a character. And I quoted that from TV tropes. Oops. That moment was enough to deserve a mention on this. Ultimately, it's the main reason I liked these two issues. Otherwise, I would have just said, meh. Then we come to another feeling part of the arc, where Eggman sends Mecha Sally to kill Elias. Wait. Did I type that right? Eggman, the main villain of the comic, sent Mecha Sally, who is not acting of her own free will, to kill Elias, her one and only brother? Eggman, you sick, demented bastard man. Keep up the excellent work. Being an incredibly evil character is something I'd like to see. But we'll get to that later. Even if she didn't do such a monstrous thing, it's the thought that counts, really. Also, Silver Sonic 3 returns. Yes, next issue we see the Secret Freedom Fighters in action for the first time, which is really all I could say about that issue. Even then, we see them technically before with the release dates of the comics, but oh well. Next up is actually about those very characters. As the next in the arc timeline, we see them in action. With a nice solid team of Silver, my favorite Sonic character, Shard, a character I found interesting, reformed Metal Sonic, awesome sauce, and Larry Lynx, the Jinx, the cat thing that's able to modify probability by just standing there. But they're not alone. Ex-King Elias Acorn and the Wolf Twins, Lita and Lyko. I'll be honest, those last two feel like anyone could fill in the role. Really, they seem the least interesting to me. But oh well. We also get to see something that we didn't before. Jeffrey St. John finally figuring out that Narcus is a sick and twisted bastard. Hey, anyone trying to control the minds of other people is a bastard to me. Not to mention that this also has an idea I would thought this comic would have done. Not to mention that this also had an idea that I would have thought this comic would have done the exact opposite just for a good fight. Silver just goes up to Jeffrey when they need an answer out of him and asks him about Narcus's plan. After pretty much everyone else was keen on the idea of beating the ever-loving crap out of him for it. This also prompts a very touched look upon Jeffrey's face. He also cooperates well. This interests me even more, because the last time Ian turned a character over to the side of evil, it was such a radical character change. But here, Jeffrey's still the same character less deep down than Fiona would be. But then again, I think Jeffrey was the better developed character before he turned, so this was probably for the best. Plus, in the last issue, we see everyone kick Narcissus' butt, save Valeri, who is busy using his abilities to keep everyone from continuing Narcissus' goal. And we see a bit of Shard's character that I didn't see before, but I'll get to him later. Next issue, we see something that seems fillery at the time, but is actual development in the plot. At least a little. We see Sonic, Gaming, and Tails fight the Krasud hybrid Hydra. And on the other side, we see some surefire plot development. We see Nargus suffering with mutations of his body, and Jeffrey acting different around Nargus, which is especially prominent in one of my favorite scenes in the issue, where something terribly awful happens and Jeffrey accuses Nargus of doing, only to see him horribly suffering with his mutations to even think about doing something bad. Not to mention that it gives me something that I have yet to receive in a long time. A plot twist I didn't see coming. I'm going to leave this one secret in case anyone actually... I'm going to leave this one secret. Excuse me for a second. Hello? Sleep? Alright, I'm sorry about that, folks. And no, I'm not going to edit. I'm a shooter, so deal with it. But anyway, what was I? Oh yeah. I'm going to leave this one secret in case anyone actually wants to read the issue. Let's just say that it leads to a terrifying face on Jeffrey and leave it at that. Next up, we have the Endangered Species arcs. Quote, breathe in through the nose and out the mouth. This doesn't make me angry, but I do want to say something about it. I liked both parts of the saga. The first issue part and then the 3 issues that follow it. My main problem is the fact that it's some serious whiplash of the arc. As an example, and don't take the music comparisons as ones to what I view of the comic. It's like going from a slow love song to a hardcore death metal song immediately. One thing I did like about it was that we see an old lady at one point that looks suspiciously like Thrash, who is supposed to be the only Mobian Tasmanian devil, or perhaps, as we think. Also, Shard appearance, which I will actually get into right now, about his whole character as well, with my thoughts on issue 50 of Sonic Universe. I like Shard. I like the issue. It starts with Eggman watching a playback and making his Metal Sonic actually go back to having a personality, which I'm always up for. As Eggman even states in the issue what I feel, the silent killer shtick was getting old. Couldn't have said it better myself, Eggman. We then see Sonic worrying about Shard, which shows care, meaning he's not heartless, which shows he cares, meaning he's not heartless, about the robot that just helped them out. We then see Shard and Nicole having a virtual game of chess. Should have been Minecraft. And we see something we didn't see before, a bit of connection between Shard and Nicole. Possible romance? If it is, then it's handled well, or at least good enough to the point where it doesn't seem like a romantic plot tumor. Thank God after the Pentecost, I'm not sure if I could handle any more of those. We didn't see him rush off to fight Metal, who just appeared and was ready to kill Antoine for good. After a good fight, it looks like Shard survived. It does a close-up of his power gem, which is basically his brain, and we see it all banged up, cracked even. Does that mean the robot is gone? It was actually really ambiguous, and I'd like a definite answer to it. But hey, they say no news is good news. If he dies, I'm fine with it, but I secretly hope he doesn't. And the way that Shard acts, how he acts, is so much like Sonic. Sonic really makes me like him. But Shard ain't just a carbon copy. Oh no, there's a definite difference between the two. What is it? Well, let's look into it. Well, the first one should be obvious. He's a robot. Another thing, he hates being buried alive, logically. And his backstory is different. What happened? Well, he started out a killer Sonic robot, like all the rest, but he somehow, in some way, defied his programming. He became more and more like Sonic, and to the point where he actually turned himself around and saved Sonic and Tails from being killed, but in return for his life. Or so we thought. Turns out that the gem in his chest kept his conscience inside it, and all he needed was a body. And he got a pretty cool one at that. I remember seeing 3 different designs for him, and all of them had a different style of spikes. One was Sonic style, where they all went downward. One was Metal style, where they went up. And one went down, up, and one went down. But Shard spikes are all straight, which kind of makes him feel like his own character, in a way. Not just a Sonic robot. Plus, black and yellow work for him. And he's been given a second chance at helping people, at becoming a good guy. Sonic taught him the value of life, and he's willing to risk his life to save others. I admire that. how much he's like Sonic and how much he's not. It's an odd combination, but I really like it. And I really like him. There's a moment that I would like to point out in the Sonic Freedom Fighters arc with him. After the arc's adventure is finished, we see Harvey who make a little rant about the entire thing. Here I have the issue right here. I'll type it out for you. Quote, and so the night passes, doom is averted, and the citizens are none the wiser. But one success does not mean the mission is over. We must still keep to the shadows. We cannot share our victory with our friends. We cannot comfort our loved ones. We cannot exist in more than rumor and second glances. This is our sacrifice to protect everything we hold dear. We must give up what we want most. The last line was over 2 panels. The first was Uncle Chuck with his brother, Sonic's dad, and mother having a good dinner. The next panel was, in the next panel we see Shard looking somewhat sad on the next panel outside the window, looking in with a face. It just makes me feel bad for the robot. Okay, well basically he goes into a lot of how he likes the character development of Shard, so if you want to read that I will provide a link down below. Now they get into Eggman, and this is what they say. And again, I'll provide a link for some of the parts I may skip over, so you guys can read it. Eggman, the brilliant Dr. Ivo Eggman Robotnik. Yes, the main villain himself. If there's one thing I love about this arc, it's how Eggman acts. Now some people view him as acting incredibly out of character in the arc. How? Why, he acts just like he originally would. I know, right? Totally OOC. Alright, time for them explaining. In this arc, Eggman acts incredibly evil. Maybe even to the point where he could be called downright cruel. While the Eggman from the games, in my eyes, isn't supposed to be this way, there is someone who is. Robotnik from the ever-so-classic Saturday AM show. What does this have to do with anything? Well, I'll tell you. Originally, the comic was basically just a tie-in to the Saturday AM show, but from that, it grew its own continuity. All the main Saturday AM characters were in the comic, including Robotnik, but there's one bit of a problem. Even with how evil the original Robotnik was, he still was nothing on what Saturday AM had accomplished until now. The original Robotnik had quite the feat to live up to, in my eyes, and now Eggman had finally lived up to my expectations, maybe even surpassed them. Eggman in the comics is supposed to be the original Robotnik, but alternate future, roboticized himself, blah 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 blah. But you get the goods. Eggman is supposed to be the original Robotnik, slightly modified backstory. They're still essentially the same character. And the original Robotnik was supposed to be the Saturday AM one. Right. And in the Mecha Sally arc, he finally crosses that brand of evil I want to see him act in. And the first thing that makes me see him this way, why, the very first issue of the arc, 230. What does he do? Well, after Sally notes that his Dark Egg Legionnaires will be destroyed from the World Roboticizer, Eggman basically says to her, so? Not only that, but the face he makes in the issue makes me think that he's not only okay with his followers blowing up, but that he's absolutely giddy to do it. Not to mention all of the other incredible evil things he's done throughout the arc. He has Mecha Sally drop Sonic out of the nose of the Death Egg, weaponizes Princess Sally, of which some people believe that he also lobotomized her, of which if he did, woohoo, yeah. That's the brand of villainy I like to see, Robotnik. But wait, it gets better. He orders Metal Sonic to blow up in Antoine's face, putting him in a coma. Giddily, he tells off one of his grandmasters that he could end him by saying the word. And while they all serve his needs, they are all replaceable. Later finds out Hope, Snively's half-sister, I believe. Either way, she's a little girl. He knows where she is and can tell his troops to single her out. That's right, gun down a little girl, who's also his niece. Evil man, evil man. Oh, I'm not done yet. He hasn't done anything to Hope yet. It's Snively who suffers because of Eggman now. After the little man wised up and decided to go against Eggman, he lost. Badly. How badly? The love of his life is not only still working for Eggman, but she's working alongside a robot double of him, who Eggman gladly tells him that she'll never notice that it's not him. And where does he keep Snively? In a prison cell? Nope. In the egg grapes? Weren't they like in the special zone or something? No, he keeps Snively in one of those capsules, the way that you always find in the classic Sonic game. In the middle of what I assume is the Death Egg. That's not evil enough for you? That's not evil enough for you? Well, it is for me, but then there's one final thing that seals the deal, and I mentioned it before. He sends Mecha Sally to kill her own brother. I don't even think I have to explain this one, and if I do, then I question to who. He has finally reached a brand of villainy that Robotnik SatAM has had for so long, maybe even surpassed it. Not only that, that's just one side of Eggman. And I like in this arc. The way he's not only incorporated with Robotnik's calculating general evilness, but also the mannerisms from Eggman in the game. The way he acts is a lot like the way he acts in the games, at least in his mannerisms. And that's what I say Eggman, and that's what I would say Eggman in the comics is supposed to be. Robotnik and SatAM and Eggman from the games all bundled up into one single package. I don't really feel like I should get into Eggman anymore. He's already got the biggest wall of text in the entire rant. So now, I will say move on to my closing thoughts. And he does, and okay, now next up he talks about a few other like side stories and stuff in the comic. So he talks about a few of the side stories in the comic, and I'll get into that in a minute.